O heavenly King, Comforter, Spirit of Truth, Word everywhere present and fill us all things, treasury of blessings and giver of life, come and dwell within us, cleanse us of all stain, and save our souls, O gracious one. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show on Reason and Theology. I want to talk about a new interview that Cardinal Fernandez just released. Cardinal Fernandez, the head of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, commenting on a flurry of questions surrounding issues in the Catholic Church today. I'm happy to see him being active in the media, responding to questions. We need more of it. And one of the questions he responded to was Cardinal Sarah, who seems to have accused the Pope of heresy. At least that's the way that it came across in his article that I reviewed a couple days ago, as well as the interviewer who asks Cardinal Fernandez about the matter. He perceived Cardinal Sarah to be accusing Pope Francis of heresy as well. And so he's going to comment on that. Before we take a look at it, I want to remind you to hit that subscribe button. Help me grow Reason and Theology so I can reach new people with content that they haven't heard. You know, most people are just kind of hearing one side of the story when it comes to controversies in the Catholic Church today, and it's leading to a lot of confusion. There's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of fake news. And one of the things, among others, but one of the things that I try to do here at Reason and Theology is dispel some of that misinformation and provide the facts and also a balanced take. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there that just haven't kind of heard that side of the story. So help me reach those people by hitting that subscribe button, the like button, and of course, comment. Now, let me share my screen so that we could take a look at this together. And we can see the interview. This was, of course, in another language, I have to say, the conduction of the interview. Now, I just kind of have my Google translator here, so this is going to be a rough translation. So it might read a little odd here and there, and that's, again, because this is just a automatic translation. Okay, so this is from an article here from Religion Digital, released today, an interview with Cardinal Fernandez, the head of the Dicastery of the Faith. The first question was the document approving the blessing of homosexual and irregular couples necessary? I mean, this is something we hear a lot about, right? A lot of people asking this question. Was this really even necessary? Why did we need this document? You know, it's something I've gone to great length to answer, but let's see one of the responses that he offers. For some time now, many people and institutions have been asking about this topic, and there was a risk that it would end up being a central topic of discussion in the Synod, which in reality has other objectives. That's true. A lot of people were thinking, hey, the Synod on bishops in Rome is going to be all about this particular issue, and it's kind of like, that's not even what the Synod's supposed to be for. The Synod's supposed to be reflecting on synodality itself. So to really get a detour and sidetracked with all this other stuff, that would take us off course. And so it was necessary to address this in part for that reason. But the most important thing is that in my conversations with the Pope, one thing became clear to me: that he wanted to reject blessings to irregular couples with rites or liturgical forms, but at the same time, he wanted to avoid that this implied starting to put many conditions to give people a simple blessing on the go, on the street, on a pilgrimage, because he carries in his heart the value of a popular pastoral care, which welcomes everyone. For many priests in Argentina, Brazil, and other countries, it is very common to give these simple blessings without demanding anything, and to give them even to criminals. Therefore, if two people ask for it, it does not imply demanding moral or canonical perfection to give it, he says. Deep down, Francis's interest was in safeguarding the freedom and spontaneity of this other type of blessing that are the only priestly gesture we have to give to everyone. If we cannot give them absolution, if we cannot give them the Eucharist, if not, we can bless them with a liturgical rite. Yes, we can give them a simple pastoral blessing. Did you hear that? If we cannot give them absolution or the Eucharist, why? Because as I've pointed out before, there are some people who are kind of in this weird limbo phase. And I think some of us should be able, in fact, all of us at some point in time should be able to relate to this. It's kind of that Augustine pre-conversion phase where it's the phase of Lord, give me chastity, but not yet. Lord, help me to get over my sins, but I'm not quite ready yet. In other words, I know my sins are wrong. I don't want you to validate them. I'm not looking to justify them, but I'm also not fully ready to abandon them yet. And so I need help. I need grace to fully turn away from this. And that's what these blessings do. They help that person transition from that phase to the point where they can go and receive absolution. People say, well, why don't they just go to confession? Well, 2 points. Number one, you ask for blessings all the time and you go to confession too, right? Number two, again, some people don't have that firm purpose of amendment yet, but they're also not fully committed to sinning either. They want to get away from this, but they're not fully ready to receive absolution yet. So this will help them get to that point where they could receive absolution. But he's talking about these people. They're not ready to receive absolution. And they're also not ready to receive the Eucharist. Why? Because they're engaging in gravely sinful acts. This is by no means him justifying the sin. He's saying, look, they can't even receive absolution or the Eucharist in some of these cases. He says, at least tell them, may the Lord bless you and protect you, and make the sign of the cross on each one's forehead. It could be as simple as that. May the Lord bless you, protect you, and then mark the sign of the cross on each person. That's it. That's what we're talking about here. For Francis, it was important that this possibility not be compromised or subjected to various ecclesiastical controls. This is it, though. Can you imagine? The whole uproar in the church today is literally over this. Whether or not you can go to two people who are in a homosexual union and go to these two people and tell each one of them, may the Lord bless you, protect you, and mark each one of them with the sign of the cross on their forehead. That's literally all we're talking about here. And this has turned into a massive controversy. It's pretty odd. Did you expect the negative reactions that the document has had? It says she. I think that's a translation thing. Again, the automatic translation issue here. She didn't know how intense they would be, but he did expect them. I'm not sure who the he and she is in this context. Again, I think it's a translation issue, but obviously the answer is no, this was not expected. What I did not expect is that many bishops, hold on one second, thank you. Grab my coffee here. What I did not expect is that many bishops and priests who I considered conservative sent or publicly expressed their understanding and positive assessment of these pastoral blessings. Sometimes you prejudge people without knowing them well. In other words, he was thinking, some of the people out there that I thought would not be open to this actually turned out to be open to it and express their positive support. I thought, that's interesting. Not the answer I was expecting. Now, here's the interesting part, albeit it's very short. Cardinal Sarah considers it a heresy, that is fiducia supplicans, which itself is a scandal for him to say that. That's a whole nother issue. But he's straight up asked about this. And watch the response. Fernandez says, today there is enormous freedom to say anything within the church. That's it. That's all he said. He had an opportunity where he could have really put Cardinal Sarah in his place, and he didn't take it. I found that interesting. He easily could have. He easily could have, and maybe even arguably should have put him in his place. But he didn't go that direction. Instead, he just says there's an enormous freedom to say anything these days in the church. Yeah, which I would say isn't maybe a very good thing, right? It's not necessarily a good thing. Would you, as a parent, let your kids come to you, cuss you out, and say, "I'm not cleaning my room. You're going to clean my room," and then insert a whole bunch of expletives and call you all kinds of names? Would you be like, you know, I guess my kids can say anything these days? What parent would do that? A good parent would immediately discipline them. I don't know why people are getting away with murder these days on both sides, but they are. As I've pointed out repeatedly, for crying out loud, we have a guy who's archbishop, who's not even a Catholic, who is a set of conscience and says there is no pope, and yet he still retains the title archbishop, and yet there's no correction from the Vatican. I don't know, don't understand it. There is tremendous freedom. I don't know if that's a good thing, though. Could it lead to a strong division in the church? Here's what he says. In any case, that division already existed and is only transparent. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I think this division was already there, and this just brought it out more. Yeah. Now the question is, what do we do about that, right? That's going to be up to the bishops and ultimately the Pope. Transitioning to the controversial book that Fernandez wrote. The question is asked, after the document on the blessings, they have attacked him harshly again for the book The Mystical Passion, which deals with the orgasm, published in 1998, and which was has been withdrawn for a long time. It says, I foresaw them, and I knew that in the midst of the controversial topics, they could use old stuff like this book. They were just waiting for the right occasion. Yep. That's true. This was not released for the benefit of souls. This wasn't because, somehow the church has to know about this because it's just vital. No, it wasn't. This was just a smear job so that people would then undermine the document he wrote and therefore undermine the magisterial authority which the document bears. A highly inconsistent critique, if you ask me, given the fact that we have some church documents written by murderers and other things. So, where does it end when we start to scrutinize such things? Okay, so he said, I knew this was going to happen. I knew they were just, holding on to this, getting ready to smear me whenever they could. He said, I had told the Pope when he proposed this proposition to me for the second time that this could happen. In other words, he told the Pope, hey, be prepared. They're going to try to trash me and smear my name. Be ready for it. But he was already clear about it. And he also knew this book. It happens that on one occasion many years ago, I had already been accused of that book, and I was not published in Rome. I was not punished in Rome for it. They had already investigated me to the hilt. This is in reference to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith that investigated him extensively and did not come away with, he's a heretic or anything like that. They put him through the ringer. He cooperated. He answered all their questions. He went through the whole process. It was a pretty excessive process, but he still went through it, and nothing came from it. And he said, look, the CDF has already scrutinized me about this book. So I was ready for it. But watch this. I thought this was interesting. He says, but let me add something. That book draws attention because it arises from research on the male and female orgasm that I had done with a group of married couples. In other words, he had this research on this topic from married couples who had spoken on these issues, and he kind of gleaned from their research. Now, it continues. But two people greater and wiser than me did something similar. St. John Paul II and the holy abbess and doctor of the church, Hildegard of Bingen. Yeah, I mean, the theology of the body, St. John Paul II, he wrote some pretty detailed stuff about orgasms and things of that nature that I'm not going to go into detail about. I quote verbatim a part of the conclusions of St. Hildegard's research because it is important to read it directly. When the sexual impulse makes itself felt in a man, something begins to turn inside like a windmill. But for women, pleasure is like the sun, which gently, lightly, and continuously bathes the earth with its heat. That was a quote from Hildegard. Okay. The truth is that this saint was more thorough and concrete than me. Except that the research we did with these couples was to discover if these differences had any influence on the way they related to God. Why this saint did it, I don't know. It continues, are there any other topics that you would like to clarify because they create confusion? He says, I must say, I do not think I will be in the news in the future because we do not have any issues planned in the dicastery that could be very controversial like the last ones. Cardinal Fernandez, if in the odd remote chance you actually hear this, with all due respect, you have underestimated your critics. You will be in the news in the future for the next decade. Cardinal Fernandez, they're not done with you. They will put you through the ringer every single day that you have any relevance in the church. You've underestimated your critics. You've underestimated them, and you might want to reconsider that one. I think he's in for a surprise. He says, we are preparing a very strong, very important document on human dignity that not only includes social issues, but also strong criticism of moral issues such as sex change, surrogacy, gender ideologies. In this sense, the most worried people will be able to rest. Again, Cardinal Fernandez, with all due respect, you are underestimating your critics. I don't care how much you condemn gender ideology. I don't care how clear you are. They will twist your words. You can be more clear than anything you find in the Gospels. They will twist your words. They'll still condemn you. There's nothing you can say, Cardinal Fernandez. There's nothing you can say they won't twist and that they'll be happy with. Nothing. Nothing. That's the truth. So whenever this document comes out, be ready. Be ready. It's going to be another fiducia supplicans. It's going to be another everything. Because they shift from one controversy to the next every single week. They're never happy with anything that you say, no matter how clear something it is, no matter how orthodox it is. That's the name of the game. I honestly think he is severely underestimating the pettiness, the malintent, the depth of slander that some of the critics can go into, the level of dissent of the critics, some of the critics. He's underestimating them. This isn't over. Have you discussed these attacks and criticisms with Pope Francis? I love this part. I love this part. I found this helpful, even personally, as a person who's constantly slandered on social media for defending the magisterium. I actually found this comforting. Watch what he says. He says, yes, I have discussed this with Pope Francis, but he considers them purifications from God to allow us to better and more humbly fulfill the task that the Lord entrusts to us. Mm, mm, mm. It's a good way to look at it. I appreciate that. It's a very good way to look at it. You know, if you are one of these Catholics out there who's defending the truth and defending the magisterium and getting slandered for it, lied about for it, attacked for it, you know what? So is Pope Francis every day. Fernandez is getting slandered for this stuff every day too. And so how do you respond? Consider it as an opportunity for purification to allow us to better and more humbly fulfill the task that the Lord entrusts to us, to purify us of ego, of pride, of sin. You know, whenever stuff is said about you, use it as an opportunity for sanctification, is what he's saying. It's good advice. I like that. I like it a lot. It continues. Well, I thought it continued. That was it. Wow. Yeah. I wish he had commented more on the issue with Cardinal Sarah, but you know, it is what it is. And I wish that Cardinal Fernandez was more in touch with the situation as far as how bad the situation is with dissent. I think he's underestimating the dissenters. He's underestimating. If he really thinks, oh, it's over, and just this next document that's going to strongly critique and condemn gender ideology, that's going to help, you know, reassure the dissenter. Oh, it won't. Let me make a prediction here, right? Let's make a prediction. One that should be obvious to us all. Gender ideology is a hot button topic, right? I'm going to say, when this document comes out, it's going to clearly condemn the matter, clearly critique it. However, the critics will not be happy with that, and they will latch on to something in the document that they can exploit, and they will twist it, and they will post all over social media in the headlines the exact opposite of what the document says about gender ideology. Watch. The document will critique gender ideology. They'll take something, they'll twist it, and they'll make headlines saying Vatican affirms gender ideology. You think I'm joking? I'm not. There's a habitual pattern at this point, not just from the secular media, but I'm talking about from Catholic media. There's a habitual pattern of doing this, one that I've documented extensively on this channel at this point. That's going to happen. And you don't have to be a prophet to know that that's going to happen. You just have to clearly see, okay, well, this is what they've been doing all along. Here's a very well-established pattern of this. I mean, it's unlikely they're going to change in the future. So, I mean, yeah, that's going to happen again. Watch. We'll see. Somebody save the timestamp from this clip and we'll go back and, hey, you know what? I'd love to be wrong. I'd be so happy to be wrong. You know what? I'll tell you what, I'll make a deal with y'all. If I'm wrong and the critics come out and they're like, wow, this is awesome. Pope Francis slammed gender ideology. This is so great. I love that the successor of St. Peter is so clear about this. If they do that, you know, the critics, I'll be happy to come on YouTube and eat humble pie. I'd love that. I would rather that, you know, eat humble pie and be wrong, then they'll mislead millions of souls with lies and fake news. I would rather be wrong and people not be led astray than the alternative. They're misleading millions of souls. Let's see. We'll wait for the document. So I said I got you on the timestamp. Good. Send it to me. When it's released and you start to see the headlines, especially from your usual Catholic critics. Let's see how they react. And if I'm wrong, you don't have to hold me to it. I'll be the first one to come on YouTube and say, "Hey guys, I was wrong. Do y'all remember this clip over here?" But if I'm right, what does that mean? What happens if I'm right? What it means is that they're going to continue to do that even beyond that controversy, right? Because again, if there's this well-established pattern where they do this with every controversy, they create a controversy, they twist things, they create fake news. If I'm right about this, then that should tell you in the future, hey, next time there's a controversy, I need to be skeptical of what they say, right? Because I would have proven there's this established pattern, and I would have proven it even more vividly than I'm doing now. We'll see. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this content. If so, hit that like button and the subscribe button. And of course, check me out, patreon.com/reason and theology if you want to support the channel. And you'll also get access to extra content, plenty of extra content. I'm creating a lot of extra stuff for the patrons, so definitely go and check that out. Okay, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Got a debate with Alex from Voice of Reason. And a Protestant who is going to be coming on, and they're going to be debating Vatican I ecclesiology. Is it in the first millennium or not? So that's going to be fun. That's going to be at 4 p.m. Central tomorrow. So stay tuned for more. All right. Oh, and by the way, I want to thank you for gifting these memberships here from 5 silver pesos. He gifted 20 memberships. So thank you so much for doing that. That's awesome. All right. We'll see you later. God bless. Are you a Catholic thinking about converting to Eastern Orthodoxy? Or are you a Protestant discerning whether or not to become Catholic or Eastern Orthodox? If so, I have the book just for you. It's called Answering Orthodoxy, and engages all of the arguments that Eastern Orthodox use against the Catholic Church. I respond to all of them. I show that they are in error, and in fact, they're inconsistent, because the things that Orthodox are objecting to are in fact found in their own tradition. So the fullness of the faith can only be found in the Catholic Church. Check out the book right now at shop.catholic.com for your copy today.